We're going to talk about why it is that you all feel rich. Everybody feels rich, but are they? And are you actually rich, or are you going to be broke pretty soon? Because here's the deal. That rich feeling, it's not new. It's not like, woo, it's brand new. No, it's just new for you. It's been around for a long time. It's just repackaged and reshipped in the form of consumer debt, which just topped $1 trillion. The market cap on consumer debt is at an all-time high. So are you rich, or are you just using this easy money at low interest rates, which is all part of the government's plan? Welcome to What the F Happened. We'll be right back, where we're going to talk about some shit. We're going to rant, we're going to rave, and we're going to have some fun. So what's going on, everybody? Welcome to What the F Happened. We are joined with a studio guest, none other than Lazy Cash. For those of you that can see him, this is our shop cat. He's part of every show when he wants to be. Other times he just chooses to be lazy, like a lot of people out there that don't want to go to work anymore because they're rich. We're rich, right? U.S. consumer debt tops $1 trillion last quarter, saw the highest increase in consumer credit card debt since they started tracking that son of a bitch 22 years ago. So, a lot of talking points here. Stephen, my partner in crime, what do you have to say about this good old-fashioned rich feeling that we all have?
I don't know, Chris. I mean, credit card consumer debt hit record last quarter since they started tracking it. U.S. Total consumer debt is at its highest since 2007. And we all know what happened right after that. But I'm staying positive this week. I'm feeling good. It's Super Bowl week. So I'm going to say that maybe all this debt is ramped up because people are just in love. It's Valentine's Day on Monday. And maybe everybody's just out there spending all that credit on diamonds and jewelry, and things for their significant other. So I'm going to go with that story. How about that, Chris?
I like that. You know, it is Valentine's Day, the time of love. It's a new year. We got lots of stuff going on. You know, one day the market's up, the next day the market's down 900 points. Anyone remember when that happened like this? I do. Too many other times, but nobody really paying attention. They're just like, oh, well, that market's not going down. It's up today. Didn't you see it? We're looking in the rearview mirror. We're only focused on the now. Take a step back and look at the big picture, and you won't like what you see, but who cares? Because my credit card's got a raise on the limit, so I'm ready to go out there. You know, Stephen, one of the things I find funny is, you know, when I'm scrolling through TikTok or I'm scrolling through Instagram, you know, man, everybody's got nice cars today. Have you seen anyone driving a shitty car lately? Man, I haven't. It's just everybody's got a nice car. I was just in California. Dude, there isn't a shitty car there, at least in the areas of San Diego where I was. I was actually paying attention driving around. I was in a little, I think it was a Nissan midsize, you know, like decent car for like an average thing. But I'm like thinking to myself, dude, I'm driving the shittiest car on these roads because everybody's got a BMW, a G-Wagon. There's every car you can think of. Dude, Lambo's going by me at 100 miles an hour. I'm like, what the hell? Can't you guys quiet those things down? It was just insane. And, you know, it got me thinking, do these people actually own these cars? Are these all financed? Is this all part of this crazy thing happening right now with this consumer debt and all this money that's getting printed? And God, I just had to stop and think, man. Because, you know, Ed Mylett, which is, you know, if any of you don't know who Ed Mylett is, look that dude up. Ed Mylett was on stage, and, you know, this is Scale and Escape, the event that I just spoke at, that I got to share the stage for the second time with Ed Mylett, the legend. But he's talking about, you know, his things and how much money he makes. And, you know, he's just kind of setting the stage and saying, I got a $50 million jet. I got this house on the beach. I got, you know, any kind of car you want. And they're all paid for. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, damn, dude's got them all paid for. But the problem with Ed is he's not paying for them through his own bank, which is the first problem, but we won't go there. So then I got thinking of how many of these other people driving around, driving all these fancy cars, actually own them. Stephen, you just put something up on the screen. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to get into a little bit of the details because it is important, when we look at a macro level and what's going on in everyday households, because we can be told, hey, the stock market's still breaking records, it's going crazy, everything's going great, everything looks good. But let's boil it down to what's actually happening. And, U.S. household debt increased by $1 trillion in 2021, most since 2007. So what feeds into that, right? So let's just go through this a little bit. So U.S. consumer debt loads grew in 2021 by the largest amount in 14 years as people ramped up borrowing to afford homes, cars, and other goods that are becoming more expensive. The higher borrowing was fueled in part by rising prices as consumers cope with the strongest inflation seen in nearly 4 decades. And households supported by increased savings and higher incomes seem to be handling the larger debt loads so far, researchers say. So, with that being said, we've been talking a lot about inflation recently and, how that affects things. And we could talk a little bit about how, job growth. We'll talk about how it actually came out and we corrected from what we talked about last Wednesday with the drop. And they're saying job growth was actually huge in January, but and salaries are increasing. But with inflation going to where it is, going back to what you're saying, are people actually buying things that they own, or are they just really leveraging the heck out of themselves with credit cards and things like that? And when you see, last quarter saw the highest increase in consumer credit card debt since they started tracking it 22 years ago, there's a reason. Like, you don't spend money on credit unless you don't have the money yourself, right? So there's an issue here, and I think it's going to start boiling, and it goes into the overall picture of everything we've been talking about for the last several months of these different cycles and how it's all coming to a head. Because now we have the markets coming to a head, and we have actual personal finance coming to a head.
Yeah, I agree. And Stephen, just the other day, we were talking a little bit about, or not the other day, the last What the F we did, we were talking about the new job claims and, unemployment rates. Can you just recap what happened with unemployment rates just a week ago when they came out? I'm showing TikTok the new studio setup here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it came out Wednesday, an ADP jobs report that said that we lost, several 100,000 jobs when we were expecting about 150,000. And then Friday, they came out and updated those numbers and said we actually gained 467,000 jobs according to payrolls versus the 150 we were expecting versus the Wednesday report that said we were down several 100,000. So, the data.
Wait. That makes no fucking sense.
None of it.
Can you just repeat that real quick? Because I don't think my ears heard what you just said. So one day there's a swing of 300,000 or give or take, somewhere close to that in jobs, and they missed huge. But then just a few days later, it's all good.
2 days later, supposedly we went from negative 300 and some thousand jobs to a positive 467,000 jobs in the month of January.
All right, listen, we got maybe 1,000 people across all channels. Can I just do a poll real quick? How many of you from last Wednesday to last Friday went out and got your ass a job? Anyone? I listen, hey man, there's got to be some relevance. I mean, if that many jobs swinged, at least one person on here had to have gotten a job. I mean, maybe 2. Anyone? Bueller?
I don't know.
No,
the data coming in is just insane.
Glenn said, no, that's not happening. So in other words, we're being fucking lied to again. Unreal. Yeah. I don't even know what to say because I don't want to keep swearing. And that's the only thing that comes to mind about that whole topic is just, it is such a false reality out there. I mean, we might as well at this point, Stephen, just get some of those goggles and go live in the metaverse because really the real world isn't so different than the metaverse with a couple exceptions. Let me talk about something that has to do with money. It's actually far more important than money. I'm reading a really cool book and it talked about a story, about this girl. She's 7 years old and she has cancer. And they asked this little girl, they say, hey, listen, whatever you'd like to do, let us know. And we can try to make that happen. Do you want to go to Disney World? Do you want to go, to SeaWorld? Do you want to go to the zoo? Where do you want to go? And all she says, no, I just want to take a day and spend it playing at the park. So she's playing at the park, doing her day. And this other guy who the story is actually about, who is a super rich, he's a kid from what I can guess, like in his 20s, comes from a billionaire family, has never had to work hard for anything in his life, but his uncle passed away and left him an inheritance. But to get this inheritance, he has to go through these different trials and tribulations. It's part of like what his uncle's making him do to learn about life. So story is he's walking through this park on challenge number 2 from his uncle thinking, what the hell? I'm having a bad day. This is ridiculous. My uncle's not going to give me my inheritance. He's going to take this money away. And he's just sitting there, and he sees this little girl, and she comes up to him, and she just sits between him and the other girl, who was the girl watching this little 7-year-old. And the little girl just looks at him and she says, "Are you having a really good day?" And she says, "This is my day to play at the park. It's the greatest day ever." And he says, "No, it's not a good day. It's not a good day at all." And she says, "Well, I'll let you be part of my special day." And he plays with her all day and learns that she's got cancer and everything. But the whole point is that I'm trying to make, and some of you are like, get to the point. The point is this. I came home yesterday. Yesterday at 11 a.m. from a red eye, and I've been gone for 6 days. My daughter hasn't seen me. Now, my daughter wasn't home, and I'm sitting in the kitchen, and I hear the door open. It was Larissa and Vivi. And Vivi, kind of comes running in. She's always smiling, and she sees me. She was carrying groceries, because Vivi's favorite thing in the world at 20 months old is bringing groceries in. Go figure. So she drops the groceries, screams, and I'm like, oh, my God. And she runs over to me and hugs me and would not let go. Now, listen. The point I'm trying to make is there is no material item, there is no amount of money, not $1 trillion that could replace that. Not $1 trillion, not a Lamborghini, not a mansion on the ocean, not a $50 million check could replace that. For that 7-year-old that had cancer, there was no amount of money, no material thing, nothing that could replace her joy from playing in the park. Sometimes we look at money and that's all we ever talk about, but is money the most important thing, or are the memories and the things we actually experience that cost nothing? Those are the most important things. I wanted to bring that up because we're always talking about money and all this stuff, but sometimes when you're feeling down in the dumps, which obviously nobody's feeling down in the dumps now, clearly by these reports, everybody's fucking rich because everybody's using credit cards, using money the government printed, and going off on a tangent, buying Lamborghinis and every nice car that you can talk about under the sun. But the important things can't be bought with money. Just never forget that. So, Stephen, what's our next topic?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's feeding into the U.S. debt. So just real quick, that's all right. So just real quickly to kind of continue down that real fast, just to kind of know what's feeding into it, because it kind of goes into the broader market when we start talking about real estate. So the aggregate balances of newly opened mortgages and auto loans sharply increased in 2021, corresponding to increases in home and car prices. Total household grew by $1 trillion. Total debt balance is now $1.4 trillion, higher than it was at the end of 2019. Our $4.5 trillion in mortgages were originated in 2021, over $4.5 trillion, reaching a historic high for the database, which goes back to 99. Mortgage balances increased by more than $258 billion in the fourth quarter. So, when we talk about real estate prices and how they're going crazy all across the country, a lot of you hear, there's cash deals being bought, but yeah, there's a lot of cash going to it. I think as people are pulling out of the markets, but there's also still, record mortgages that are being put out. And that goes back to what the Fed has been doing with all this free money. So it's just all very connected. And it's something that, when we see rising inflation, when we see these real volatile market swings, when we see these unrealistic prices, I don't know about where you live, but there's all kinds of news stories locally where I am, where people just cannot afford to live here any longer in Florida. There's all kinds of stories where realtors have been working with people for months on end. They've lost out on 9, 15, 25 houses they put offers on and give up. They're moving to South Carolina and Georgia and other places. So it's all connected. And when you see this kind of just craziness happening, it can't happen forever. So there has to be some kind of pullback. And that's what I think is important, is this can't go on forever. I don't want people to think that it can. And just start realizing, hey, when this happens, where is it going to go? If I was to go out and buy stock right now or buy crypto right now, and it has a 50 to 70% pullback, am I still okay? Can I afford that loss? If I go and buy real estate right now, can I weather the storm if that real estate loses half of its value, right? So just make sure you're asking these questions, and it really all starts to come together when you look at it that way.
I think that's a really, really, really important thing that you just said is, anybody that's buying real estate, and I just came from a real estate event, everybody's talking about, oh, I'm looking to buy this real estate, I'm buying this house, I'm buying that. In an event like that, I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative Nelly, but deep down inside, I'm just thinking, boy, I wish I could just take what I know and give this to them, because that's the biggest thing you got to look at is if you are buying real estate right now, that's cool. If you're buying it for the long term, okay, meaning you're going to just cash flow it. But see, I think people will easily just agree with that and say, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm buying for cash flow. But let me then ask you a second question. If you bought that rental or whatever property you're buying for cash flow, and then all of a sudden the price of that property drops 20 or 30%, and you watch this and you hear about this in the news, and everybody's houses are falling in value, and people are losing their houses, and people are losing their jobs, and along with that, the stock market's crashing. Your 401k is down 40, 50%, but it's okay. I got this property that's cash flowing. How long does that property have to cash flow to make up for the amount of appreciation it just lost? If it went down 20%, how long does it have to cash flow for to just make up the fall in price? Because this next fall, historically, if you just look at any other one, you're looking at 10 years. I just want to be very clear. You're looking at a 10-year cycle. I mean, I'll put it up on the board here real quick. There's nothing hard about understanding why it's 10 years, folks. So don't overcomplicate this, please. There is a 10-year cycle. That's it. So if you guys are looking at this, there it is. You got a leverage period, which is the 75-year cycle you always hear me talking about. Then you've got the depression cycle, which is 2 to 3 years. Depression, recession, 2008 to when? Yes, it's a 2 to 3 year cycle. So this, when it does go, it will be a 2 to 3 year cycle. Reflation, which is the way back up, takes time, okay? It takes time for everything to get back. It is a 7 to 10 year cycle. So no matter how you roll the dice, you are looking at 10 years. Go back in history, folks. Don't take me as the gospel for this. Go back in history and just count. Look at every other recessionary period where real estate fell. And guess how many times that was? Oh, every single one. Every time the markets fall, real estate falls. They are correlated, but there's a 6-month lag usually, because when markets drop, real estate doesn't catch hold and start going down for at least usually 6 months, sometimes longer. That can happen quicker like it did in 08, but that's normal. But it's a 10-year cycle. So now let's go back to it. You just lost 30 to 50% in your 401k. You're looking at the value of your real estate. It's down 20% from what you paid for it, but it's cash flowing. Are you okay being at a loss for the next 10 years? If the answer is no, I don't think so, then don't fucking buy real estate right now. Seriously, because that's where you're going to be. Now, I might have the numbers wrong and I can't tell you when this is going to happen, but everyone that's in the know, all the wealthy people, the economists, all the people I spoke with at the event, they're all saying the same thing, but yet everybody's super excited about buying a bunch of stuff. Everybody's excited about buying crypto again. Steven, did you hear, have you been following any of the social media stuff? You know how when crypto was falling, there really wasn't too many people talking about it except for bad things. Now all of a sudden everybody's talking about buying it again. Your minds are broken. Like if you're buying when it's going up, you're doing the opposite of what you should have been doing, which is buying when it's going down.
Yeah, Chris, I don't even have to look at my Coinbase account to know where, or my stock account to know where Bitcoin and crypto is. All I have to do is look at my social media feed. If people are talking about it, I know it's up. If I don't see anything about it, I know it's doing shitty. That's
a good point. Listen, I want to go to the audience here real quick. Atticus 3500 on TikTok said, jobs didn't just go away. They just filled the ones people left. That's an important thing. So we were talking about the jobless, numbers, and we were talking about how in a matter of days, the government did something. Where's Drew's? Right here. Drew made a comment here on YouTube. He said, oh, LOL, whoops, my bad. Let's fudge those numbers. You're right. Jobs don't go away. Actually, there's more jobs now than there ever has been. But what happens to the jobs? You see, there's a couple different things. Either people leave, they get fired, or they retire. You see, during COVID, it wasn't a matter of jobs going away, like this person saying on TikTok, but people left those jobs. Record numbers of people took early retirement. They said, I'm done. I'm just going to punch out. I'm done. And maybe they go and do odds and ends things. Maybe they go and enjoy their life. Maybe they're washing cars at a car wash. Maybe they're just doing things like working on a farm or volunteering. Like they're just doing things that they choose to do, but they're not going back to their job. It's not like they just lost their job during COVID and they're not going back. They're never going back. They're done. That is a job that is very difficult to replace because you got somebody that was there 20, 30 years. Now you're going to replace them. And that's what's happening. But unemployment numbers don't lie. And when they went down, maybe they made a mistake and they're like, oh, whoops. Oh, let's change those numbers. Or maybe they just called the agency when they put that report out and they're like, you bastards, what are you thinking? Like we were on a good roll here. We got an election coming up. Like get those numbers changed. Okay, whoops, we made a mistake. Here you go. Here's the right numbers. You got to decide what you're going to listen to. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Brian, I love what Brian said. Greed, Chris, greed.
Yeah, I mean, getting into, kind of what's happened this last week. So following Meta, which is Facebook, they've kind of rechanged their name now. They call themselves Meta. So the Facebook Meta stock had a rough week last week, if you're following. Let me see if I can share this article real fast. Facebook lost, Meta lost. Where is it? Here we go. All right, so Meta erases $251 billion in value, the biggest wipeout in history. Shares slumped 20%, dragging down Snap, Pinterest, and Twitter. Wall Street cuts price targets on Meta shares after earnings. So Meta Platforms Inc. one-day crash now ranks as the worst in stock market history. The Facebook parent plunged 26% Thursday on the back of woeful earnings results. And while the stock could certainly bounce back in the coming days, especially given the volatility that's gripped the technology sector this year, the mood on Wall Street has turned decidedly bleak on the longtime market darling. And then coming in news on top of that, they're also having major issues in Europe and some of the rules and regulations over there that are surrounding Europe. And now they're threatening to pull Facebook out of all of Europe, which I would imagine would drastically affect the stock as well. So a lot going on with Facebook right now. On a counter argument, some are saying maybe that could be a good thing for the company because, they're not going to face as many anti-trust possible lawsuits and things like that and monopoly type stuff. So we'll see what happens, but something to keep an eye on. Something that definitely hurts a lot of people, though, is Facebook, is obviously a very well-known stock. It's held in, I would say, probably almost all retirement accounts, pension accounts, 401k accounts, things like that. So a lot of people saw drops in retirement accounts just from that one stock taking such a massive hit last week. So it really affects everybody.
I agree. And it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, listen, I can't get on Instagram. I can't go live on Instagram right now. So there's something broken. I've been trying since we started this. It won't let me connect. So unfortunately, Instagram isn't part of today's What the F happened. But maybe that's because Meta took a dump. I don't know. They're like, all right, blah, blah. But how many of you are actually paying a lot of attention to Facebook? Like I'm 44, so I'm like the perfect age group for Facebook. I didn't grow up with Facebook like my wife's age group in the 30s would have. But I've always used Facebook, but I don't barely even use Facebook anymore. Literally, I go through and I share some things. My team posts some things. But how many of you, dude, there is something really funky going on here because I just lost TikTok now. TikTok's now gone. Dude, I just don't get it. Technology's on a roll this morning. So welcome back, TikTok. Sorry we lost you. I can't get on Instagram. Pretty soon we're probably going to lose you. Well, YouTube's usually the pretty trusted one. But how many of you are actually still using Facebook? Like say I mean, on a regular basis. How many of you use Facebook more than you use Instagram and more than you use TikTok? Can I get an I?
I do personally. You
do? Okay. But you're in the demo, right? You're in that kind of age category where maybe more people are using Facebook than not. How many? Okay, so Facebook user says they are. Mark is. But I mean, I truly have seen, just from our marketing, we've seen a big transition away from Facebook to TikTok. TikTok's our number one social channel right now. It is. And, welcome back, everybody coming on TikTok. I don't know what happened. TikTok is now taking the ways of Facebook where they're just dumping the live. But we'll build the audience.
And Mark Zuckerberg came out and basically blamed TikTok for the drop in stock and for their performance and revenue and everything last year. And, the bottom line is TikTok has unbelievable algorithms that drive the way that your feed looks and everything and why it's become so wildly popular. And remember where TikTok comes from. It's developed by Chinese tech companies. So it's just, the global, we have Olympics right now in China and we're politically boycotting it, but our athletes are there, but our government officials are telling our athletes to shut the fuck up and don't make a scene over there and don't say anything about the genocide and all the terrible things that are going on in that country. But it's just all so intertwined and interweaved. It's incredible what goes on in the global world these days.
It is crazy. And, we were just talking a second ago, how Facebook or Mark, blamed TikTok for the drop. So in other words, Mark is saying there should be no competition against Facebook. And the only reason our stock went down is because our competitor did a better job of keeping up with what people actually want. Oh, darn, Mark, maybe you should fucking learn your business and make it better instead of diving and living in your metaverse world where things aren't really real. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Forrest Gump.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, in the world of tech, if you don't innovate and stay with what's on top, you're going to fall behind and lose. It happens all the time. I mean, think about MySpace, think about Napster, think about all these services that came before the ones that we have now. Is Facebook going to fall into that group? Is Zuckerberg going to adapt, or is he going to keep blaming other people? I mean, Zuckerberg blames TikTok as Facebook loses users for first time ever after spending $10 billion on metaverse, which I want to talk about next, the metaverse.
All right, man, let's go into it.
So
I was at a mastermind learning about metaverse, so I feel like I've got a wee little bit of information. We actually did like a demo of walking through metaverse and the property that the guy that's putting the one mastermind on, he had bought a property and, he had his NFTs hanging on the wall and he was selling NFTs from his property on the metaverse. But like, let's talk about this. Let me get TikTok over here now that TikTok's actually back. And
so this is very interesting right here. So this isn't even the metaverse. This is actually combining NFTs with actual physical real estate in the country. So the first U.S. real estate NFT is being auctioned off in Florida for the first time ever. So I would love if
is that like a REIT?
No, I can kind of read some of this, but if anybody on TikTok or Facebook or YouTube has any extra information on this, I'd love to hear it. Put it in the chat box if you're familiar with what's going on right now with all this. So NFTs in the U.S. real estate sector are heating up as Florida becomes the first state to announce an auction. Taking real estate and mixing it with the world of NFT technology is a recipe for industry transformation. NFTs have now established a new way to represent proof of ownership, and this doesn't just apply to digital goods. Last year, TechCrunch founder Kiev Apartment made history as his property sold for nearly 5 times the starting bid in an auction with the Silicon Valley startup and real estate company Proppy. Today, that same organization is taking a step forward with introducing this innovative technology to real-world estate assets in the U.S. So what they're doing is I believe what is happening is instead of the piece of real estate being titled and deeded traditionally and being purchased through escrow and cash, it's being sold. It's being converted into a digital asset, an NFT, and that NFT is being sold to take over the ownership of that actual property. And I read through the article, and I can point this out, but they're doing it some way by using an LLC to own the NFT, and then they're selling the LLC, I believe.
Dude, I kind of like Steven. No one on TikTok has yet kind of told us, anything about this, but so you're just converting the real estate to an NFT. Then it's almost kind of like you're moving your real estate into a trust. I'm just going to talk how my mind thinks. So instead of going to a trust, you're going to an NFT. Then the NFT is being sold, but the NFT is then being held by an LLC, probably for liability and asset protection, and for probably portability of being able to sell it. So
here it is right here, Chris. So the auction next week includes a Florida-based investment property. The successful buyer would own a U.S.-based entity and the ownership rights of which are associated with an NFT. It is not fractional ownership. This becomes a DeFi asset that can be borrowed against. The property is located in St. Pete, Tampa, Florida. The starting bid for the Spanish-inspired 4-bedroom is $650,000. The auction will be held next week. So something to keep an eye on, and I'll definitely follow this next week. We can talk about it next Wednesday if it happens before then. So the CEO of Proppy, we've developed all the necessary smart contracts and a compatible legal framework that allows detokenizing any real estate property in the United States. NFT sales reached $4 billion in December 2021, as real-world assets will soon represent a significant portion of that market.
I love it. This is the biggest thing that first I started thinking, Steven, is on TikTok, Love Me one time said, oh, that sounds like a scam. And it just does seem a bit scammy that you got to move this asset around. And then Tam on YouTube says the house was bought for $200,000, then renovated, and then they started the sell at $650,000. But
yeah, but that's Florida real estate. That's everywhere.
that's Florida real estate, but also are they getting some premium value because they converted it to an NFT? So some people find it maybe more lucrative or more, I don't know, portable, or now you've got an asset that can be sold much easier than selling a physical piece of property. All I can say is I got two words. I said, first word is that's cool. Okay, good. I'd like to learn more. The second word is, holy shit, is that going to open up a whole bunch of ways to scam people, because you can manipulate so many pieces of that.
It can be borrowed against too, though, on the positive side, if it's legit and they find a way. Remember, the whole sale of cryptocurrency is the decentralized platform where you can't be scammed because it's backed by the blockchain technology, which is unscammable, apparently, from what I've been explained to me.
We're going to find out, because China is trying to see if they can break the blockchain.
But if that's legitimate and you can borrow against that asset, you can basically get a HELOC loan, a home equity line of credit, or a home equity loan agreement without having to go through the banks. What about that?
Again, I think it's fascinating. I mean, that's my first word, is like, man, I've been reading books on Bitcoin and blockchain and everything. And I think, listen, here's my thing. I think, so when you look at like all the different coins and the different things, like the number one thing, the utility, the use that I think is the most valuable of all of them is Ethereum, period. Like the technology and what it actually does, the problem it solves, I just find the most valuable. And then, just blockchain is it's more secure because you really can't hack it with the way that it is. But I know for a fact that China is putting, I think, trillions, and they won't admit it, but trillions into basically hacking into it to try to steal Bitcoin and things like that. So I don't know. Anytime you do that, I mean, it's just so new that it's difficult to really say it is unbreakable. It is unhackable. I don't know. I mean, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. It's a fascinating new world, and it's a new world that all of us are going to be forced to learn about, because in this month alone, the government is going to come out with some executive order, whatever they fucking dream up, of ways that they're going to monitor or, police, Bitcoin and this whole thing. So it's going to be a very interesting couple of years to see how this whole thing happens. So that's all I have to say about that one.
Yeah. I mean, so last week, a little bit about how the IRS was going to come out and use facial recognition software for taxes and things like that. They've since backed off of that due to a bunch of backlash, but it shows you that the way that they're thinking about coming after things, they want complete control of it all. So as that increases more and more, things like these decentralized platforms are going to be the fight against that, I think. So,
dude, I'm loving reading this stuff coming in on TikTok here. I got to mention, one more thing. This is pretty freaking interesting. Love Me One Time said, so watch, who is going to secure all that money? And then she just jokingly said, AIG. And for those of you that are too young to remember, in 2008, AIG, which is a giant insurance company, but a publicly traded, want to be clear, it's not one of the mutuals we talk about, publicly traded insurance company, was insuring the packaged together real estate offers or mortgage securities that were being passed around, CMOs and GMOs, and they were insuring a basket of risk that you can't insure. And because of that, when the whole thing blew up, guess what happened to AIG? They went insolvent. And everybody's like, oh my God, what happened to the people they insured? Well, the government just stepped in and bought it all out. And, the same thing that happens most of the time. But it is interesting. And Love Me One Time, I bet you any money that is who will insure something like this. Oh, it's insane, dude. Insane. Yeah, so Tess just said she remembers the AIG thing. What else we got on the agenda?
Yeah, I mean, kind of pivoting back to the economy and just overall, I got a couple stories we can go just kind of fire at real fast. So Washington Post, just going back to the inflation and job raises, that raise meant nothing. Inflation is wiping out pay increases for most Americans. After years of barely budging, wages are finally up, but the same strong recovery that is emboldening workers is also driving up inflation, leaving most Americans with less spending power than they had a year ago. So Ty Steak, just to give you an example, who works the front desk at a hotel, got an extra dollar raise in the fall to $15 an hour, but higher prices for rent and food have completely negated that 7% bump. Stalek, who identifies as non-binary And that's kind of where I stopped reading the Washington Post because I don't give a shit what they identify as.
Yeah.
But anyway, it just goes to show you, like, it's all connected. Higher wages is leading to more inflation. People not going to work is leading to higher prices because of supply and demand issues. And then we have, COVID, there's a major pivot this week coming from the administration on COVID and coming from the blue states that they're starting to finally say, hey, we got to get rid of masks. We got to get rid of masks in schools. We got to lay off some of these mandates and requirements and things like that. So major pivot happening right now. I'm not going to get into, why they're saying that now versus a year ago, but that's happening right now. But we'll see what happens because, Canada, have you guys been following what's happening in Canada, Chris? You're right up there.
Yes, the trucker convoys, good for them. Sorry, we're having cat issues here, technical problems, but actually in a real form of a cat. So we're just removing the cat. Okay, sorry about that. All right, we're back.
Yeah. So the Freedom Convoy of truckers protesting Canada's vaccine rules block a crucial link in the auto supply chain. So this is coming at a time when automakers, vehicles are already selling for above MSRP. I actually just saw that Ford and GM came out and they're threatening dealers that if they're selling for above MSRP, they're going to not give them cars in the future and inventory in the future. So they're trying to control that from happening. But when things like this are happening, it's going to make it worse and worse. So protesters blocking traffic between the U.S. and Canada to oppose vaccine rules are further stretching an auto supply already worn thin by pandemic-related labor shortages and scarcity of chips. And you can just see how they're blocking this major thing that connects Ontario and Detroit right now. I think there was a picture on here.
And the cool thing is this is really close to me. So just so everybody knows, like Windsor and Toronto, like that's a matter of like an hour to 3 hours for me, depending on which direction you go. And it's really cool. So we do see a lot of that. I don't watch the news, but we're seeing a ton of that. And first thing I got to say is good for them. They're standing up to, let's call it communism, because I don't know what else to really call it, socialism, right. Communism. But
100%.
I saw another article where they went on and they one of the governments like made it illegal for these trucks to honk their horns. So you made it illegal for truckers to honk their horns inside these neighborhoods. So what are you going to do to police that? You're going to send your police in to the truckers, and the police are going to walk up to the trucker and what? Take the horn? Is that what you're going to do? I mean, I don't know. What the fuck is the only thing I can say, but good for them. That's the only word I have to say is finally you're starting to see people stand firm to enough is enough.
And the military has declined to police the people who are protesting.
Yeah. Did you hear about that? James just brought up the military has declined to police the people protesting. So now people are protesting, people are standing up, and now the military is saying, oh, well, good for you guys. We're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it surprises the hell out of me. I give Canada a lot of credit to citizens up there for having some balls. I mean, we always
normally they have. I mean, no disrespect to Canadians, right. But I know a lot of them. No disrespect, but they're usually pretty wimpy. Like, oh, it's okay, we'll wear the masks.
Right.
And I was just in this event, and my good friend Olivier is how you say it. I say it wrong. He's French Canadian, and he was talking about this, and he's like, "Yeah, we're just all over it, man." And it was cool to see. So, any Canadians on here on TikTok or anywhere else, good for you. Good for you. Like, stand up, take a stand.
Yeah. In other news, the U.S. Remains in a heightened threat environment fueled by several factors for terrorism in the U.S. homeland, including an online environment filled with false or misleading narratives and conspiracy theories and other forms of dis, and malinformation introduced and amplified by foreign domestic threat actors. And one of those, the proliferation of false or misleading narratives, which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. So I don't know where they're coming from with that. It just came out 2 days ago. This little announcement. I don't know if they're trying to set something up that's about to happen or what, but I don't know if they're talking about CNN or Facebook on here. But it's interesting to see what's going on with that and where that's going to lead.
That's super cool to see. I mean, and some people, we got some comments flowing around here. Good. Because the truckers and the people, the supply chains, they work for the people and they're paid by the people. They're not paid by the government. So like. Absolutely correct. And, over here, somebody had said, wait till that happens in the United States. Like the United States is way bigger than Canada and we got way more truckers. And I think our truckers are probably being ready. I think they're seeing what's going on up in Canada and they're holding on by a thread saying, One more, motherfucker. One more. And that's it. And that is going to be really, listen, like we all know, and if you don't know this, we are on the brink of a civil war. There's no other way around it. Forget about like what I think or just what you see. But I mean, if you look at the cycles and you look at where we're at, the rise, the top, the decline, we are at the top leading into the decline. And it absolutely says, and this isn't me writing this, folks. This is what it is. Political and wealth gaps, class conflicts, struggles between countries, excessiveness, fighting within is a part of the decline, political divide, all this stuff. I mean, that's civil war. We're this close. But are we going to have a civil war, or is our government going to thrust us into a war with the one person we should not fuck with, Mr. Putin himself over in Russia? Like, he wants to invade Ukraine. And it's funny if you really watch this, and I've been watching it online, like literally, like imagine there's like a part of a road that divides Ukraine and Russia, and the forces are on each side. And one force is like shooting bullets into the air, trying to tip off the other side, which is shooting bullets into the air. And one side pisses like on the other side's property. The other side, like that's kind of what's going on. It's right there. And, I don't know. I think I'm just trying to think of like movie references. I wish we could play it in the edit on this, but like where, like they're just like pushing just so much. And I'm scared. This scares me, Steven. And I don't know about any of you, but this one thing right here, civil war, truckers like protesting, like police getting involved. None of that really like makes me fearful. Looking at this makes me say, honey, we got to order more bullets. We got to get a lot more bullets right now because that is scary.
Yeah, I mean, and in the past, war has always brought the country together, no matter what else was happening, no matter what the divisions were. It feels different this time to me. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely not a positive thing, that's for sure, especially with the Olympics going on right now. A lot of people saying wait until the Olympics are over. And then we see these reports about 70% of level needed for full invasion. Russia's going to do it. But then when the media is questioning some of these officials about these statements, they just simply say, listen, it's declassified information. The reporters are going, well, where's the declassified information? And the official just says, well, I'm telling it to you right now. Just take my word for it. And we all know that's fucking worked out for us in the past. It doesn't. They lie. So it's a lot happening right now on that front, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, well, all I got to say is my hat comes off, number one, to our military, and number two, to all of our truckers out there. So that's where I'm going to lead that. So thank you to the truckers. 100% got my support and our team's support here for anything you guys decide to do. If you guys stop the flow and there's no food in the grocery store, man, oh man, like we'll just start, I don't know, I'll learn how to start growing some stuff because I just got to say I support it. It's going to suck, but this Ukraine thing, I mean, yeah, once the Olympics are over, and I've been watching some of the Olympics traveling, like with, I watched the men's snowboard slopestyle, Red Gerard, who is a kid. He literally, like when I was coaching, Red Gerard and this one kid that I coached, Hayden Taylor, who's making his come up now. Those two were just little kids. I would see them at the Nationals. So literally I have snowboarded numerous times with Red Gerard up in Copper, Colorado. He was a good rider then, like pretty natural, but he was a kid, like a little kid. And now to see him for the second time in the Olympics, he won the Olympics last time and he's kicking some ass now. Like freaking awesome, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. So some of the down skiing and some of the snowboarding I've seen so far has been amazing.
Yeah, some injuries too with the downhill skiing, and they keep going back to that 2006 Olympics where that guy like took the pole to the he's a French skier, took the pole to the and you heard him say, "Oh!" Can't even imagine.
All fake snow.
Yeah, it's all fake snow, clearly, but that's all we ride here in Buffalo anyway. Except for now, we got some a lot of powder here now.
Yeah, I know Olympic, the opening ceremonies were down, I think almost 70% from years past. It was the worst viewing in history of the Olympics in the U.S. I believe some of the competitions now are starting to get some decent numbers, but people are just kind of, I think, are over the whole just China thing and the whole masking. And I mean, I watched it for like 5 minutes and it's just, they all look the same. They're in cold winter clothes and they have these masks on their face and you can't see anything. It's not the freedom that you think of with the Olympics. And it's just, people are over with it. You can see that in Canada. You can see that in the U.S. You can see that going everywhere right now.
The one Olympic, he was an Olympic medalist. I can't remember. I think maybe silver, and maybe even took gold in half pipe. I haven't watched it yet. But he's from China. So he's a Chinese snowboarder. And, you know, when he was like down at the bottom, they're filming him and they had audio on him, which I don't think he knew. And his scores came out and he throws his board up and he says something and, you know, could kind of mumble it. But then you hear him say, fucking, and I'm just like, they're going to strip your medal, dude. You're going to probably be in solitary confinement. Like you're a Chinese athlete and you just said, fuck. So I think there might be a slight problem. So I was kind of feeling bad for him. I'm like, damn, you guys shouldn't have aired that. Poor kid. He's probably like 14 years old. Yeah. We might not even see him at the ceremonies. Who knows? Crazy. All right. What else we got in the tail end of this?
So in other news, we got a couple stories coming out of Reddit this week that are very fascinating. So we all kind of know that there's, you know, always fraud going on and, you know, everything, all the problems with the Fed specifically. And it seems like every week there's another politician that's doing insider trading, whether it's Nancy Pelosi or Ted Cruz or whoever's out there. They seem to all be doing it these days. But this seems to be a little bit more of a story that just came out a couple days ago. Could this be bigger than Watergate? So Jay Powell, who's the chairman of the Fed, traded during restricted blackout period, failed to disclose most trade dates, apparently lied about muni conflict, and directed massive Wall Street bailouts despite being heavily invested and having a lot of conflicts himself. And this story just goes into the turbulent times, not unlike the 70s, supply shortages, rampant inflation, domestic upheaval, foreign affairs fiascos, but some innate desire for continuity at Fed chair is not worth sacrificing every principle for which America stands. And it goes into and shows, I know we don't have much time right now, Chris, but it goes into and shows actual receipts of these trades that he's been making over the last 5, 10, 15 years and how they directly conflict with everything that the Fed has been doing. So we'll see if that story catches any mainstream attention or if it's going to stay in the back channels on Reddit. But it's a very fascinating story. If you get a chance to check this out, it's occupythefed.substack.com.
And if any of you want to really see what's going on with inflation and all the stuff we're talking, we just made a new video on YouTube. You can go on there and you can watch it. It has Jerome Powell in there, has the Fed in there, has Biden in there. It's a fantastic video. You guys will learn a lot from it. It's just like that movie you guys once saw called Deep Impact. Yeah, we basically just made a video all around that. So make sure you go to YouTube, subscribe to The Chris Naugle, and watch the video. You'll see it, like the little thread that you'll see has a picture of Biden's face on the first dip in terms of what's going on. And you guys should get a good laugh. Yeah, make sure you guys go on and watch that. And send me a message after, like on the bottom in the comments of what you thought and if you learned anything about this next dip and what's going on and, you know, what's about to happen to Jerome Powell. Stephen, I think we got that one quite right. Remember the video? Like, remember Jerome Powell and, you know, he's sitting with the retail investors. Well, looks like it's happening in real life. So check the video out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's my plug for today. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. All right. What else we got?
One other conspiracy coming out of Reddit this week that was just kind of fascinating. Happened in the last week. There was a major fire in a document storage facility, a secure document storage facility in Chicago, which is a major financial hub for Citadel Securities. And this is coming on the tail end of a major Department of Justice inquiry into some of the short selling that I think it's something like 60 hedge funds have been engaged in when it came to some of these stock names, or these meme stocks like GMC and GameStop and AMC. And they're saying that TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, and Citadel had a lot of their required documents storage in this facility that supposedly was completely fireproof, completely bomb-proof, completely waterproof. And this entire gigantic facility literally burned to the ground where there's literally nothing left, no documents left or anything. And this is coming right on the tail end of this Department of Justice inquiry, just getting ramped up and started, looking at all the stuff that these companies have been doing. So a little tinfoil hat conspiracy going there, but it's just crazy how many coincidences tend to happen in the financial sectors.
So a building that holds secure documents that is fireproof and fully locked down just burned to the ground.
Yep, right after the Department of Justice launched an investigation.
I've heard of this happening before, and I think the last time I heard of it, what happened is a squirrel got into the records room, and the squirrel, just sat there and had like a little thing on that lit a fire and the whole place burned down. I mean, maybe that's what happened. I mean, who knows?
I mean, what's his name? Epstein hung himself, right? I mean,
right,
all the cameras just happened to be off for 6 hours, and none of the guards were around like they're supposed to be, and nobody saw anything. And he all of a sudden got something to hang himself with that he didn't have, but no, nothing.
And then they say, people say that he's, still alive. So, hey, listen, if you don't believe the squirrel story, you probably shouldn't believe the Epstein hanging story. And then what else don't you believe? How far down the rabbit hole shall we go? Well, I think we should just keep pumping up those credit cards, keep buying new cars, rack up the debt while it's all cheap, and then just say, fuck it. Or as Kelly would say, shit. No, I don't know. I'm totally joking, folks. Like, don't do that. And don't believe that a squirrel went in there and started a fire either. I'm just trying to just show you how absolutely batshit crazy things are out there right now.
Yeah,
absolutely. The Maxwell story. Oh, God, don't even get me started on that one.
Yeah, so other than that, we're just having some fun at the end here with these conspiracies. Believe them if you want, check them out. But in other news, just to wrap up the stock market, investors will be keeping an eye on the 10-year yield, which crossed 1.9% on Friday, the highest level since December 2019, and another huge slate of earnings reports this week. There's no real general theme this week, just lots of developments in the business world as the markets digest earnings and prepare for the rest of February.
Yeah, and I've been getting a lot of people that have been messaging me and calling me while I was away saying, what's going on? The market's up. You said, we should be careful about the markets and it's going down. And I got nervous, the 1 week where it was falling, but it seems to be back up. Am I okay? Should I just keep my holdings? And it just kind of brought it to and these are some smart people, like professionals. And it just kind of made me believe and just see that no matter how much we tell you what's coming, no matter how much we tell you why it's coming and why it's happened every other time in history and all the specifics as deep down the rabbit hole as you want to get, there's a storm coming that's going to drop the markets. The first dip in the markets should be between 50 and 60% by the numbers, not my opinion. And yet still people are saying, so you're saying we still got a little time, right? So I can still squeak out a little bit more gains on this, right? For those of you that are asking me that, stop texting me, stop calling me. You don't listen anyway, and just wait for the first dip. And then when it goes down 50%, sell then. And then you don't have to pay any taxes on the gains because you just lost all your gains. So at least there's a silver lining at the end of the story because I am just sick of it. Like, if you are literally trying to time the market, you are just being an idiot. Like, if I'm speaking to one of you, I'm sorry I'm being a dick, but I'm pissed. I'm just sick of the questions. I'm sick of people asking me, when is this going to happen? Fuck, I don't know. My crystal ball's been in the shop for the last 5 years. They can't figure out what's wrong with it. Until I get it back, I don't know when. The time is now. That's when. The markets are the highest they've ever been. How much more do you really think you're going to get? And I just looked here. You want to talk? We didn't hit Bitcoin, but here we go. Bitcoin's at 44,188. Ethereum's at 31.99, up 5% right now. And then you guys can look at any of the other ones. I mean, Shiba Inu, Polkadot, whatever. They're all up. Well, how much more do you want to make? Oh, I bought it at 60. I'm down. Well, you're pretty well screwed. But you know what? Here's how I look at this. Let me just tell you how an investor actually looks at this information. You see, when the market was when Bitcoin was crashing and Bitcoin got down to around 34,000, I started buying. I'm always buying, but I'm just dollar cost averaging. I started buying big chunks. Here you go. Here's 5,000. Here's another 5,000. Here's another 5,000. I did that all the way down till it hit 28 and then rebounded. Then I stopped buying. We're at 43, just about 44 right now. Where am I selling? When we get close to 50, out. And you know what? Some people are going to sit there and say, oh, why didn't you wait? It went to 60. It went to 65. It went to 70. Why didn't I wait? Because that was my number. That was my exit, man. I didn't listen to the GPS tell me exit 13B right here, 0.008 miles, and then stay in the fast lane and be like, I'll get the next exit. No, I got off the damn exit and I got to my destination and I was happy. What's so hard to understand about a GPS? Nothing. You just listen and you follow the GPS. Well, folks, I'm giving you the GPS. I literally am giving you the directions. Whether you follow them or you decide to go off on your merry little way and get your ass lost, doesn't matter. All I can do is give you the directions, the coordinates, the map. If you don't follow the map, shame on you. So there you have it.
You're
Want to make money, take your gains off the table now.
You're laying it out perfect. I mean, this sums it up perfectly what you just said, Chris. I pull up the stocks the market just opened our number one headline on CNBC. NASDAQ jumps for a second day as investors continue to buy the tech dip. Why, Chris, are they buying the tech deep? Because they're programmed over the last 14 years that every time it goes down, it's going to come back up and keep going stronger. What's the number one rule in investing? When others are greedy, be fearful. Everyone's greedy right now, thinking they're buying at low levels, and it's going to always, no matter what, always go back up. Until when, Chris? Until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't.
It drops and it doesn't, and it drops and it drops and drops and it drops and drops. And then it's too late. So be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. Everybody's being greedy right now, trying to get that last squeeze in. Be fearful as fuck. This is what the fuck happened. Be fearful as fuck. Listen to what Chris is saying. Stay frosty, my friends. That's all I got.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. We're putting up tons of them, but I think if you like this one, you'll probably like that video as well. Click that alert button. Actually, smash that alert button, and you'll be notified every time we put a new video. So we'll see you on the next episode.